Hello everyone. This video is a continuation and there's a problem with what I said in the old video that I wanted to bring to your attention. But this is a kind of an add-on to what I said in the New Jerusalem. I titled it The New Jerusalem Amplified. And, a lot of people say a lot of things. Usually when you go to church, someone will just say something and then that's it. It's this way. You go to another church and it's this way. And I find that to be dishonest. When I present these videos to you, I want to show you, basically I'm showing everyone what I found. That's all. I'm doing research, I'm looking at stuff, and I find things and I'm sharing them with you and I'm presenting them to you in these videos. So what I presented in the New Jerusalem, this last video, it's not that it's wrong, but someone objected, someone that I take his opinion seriously. I like his opinion, and I find that he's honest. He doesn't have a problem with being wrong. He's not religious, and he's a retired mathematician, and he speaks and reads Greek. He studied both when he was in school, and he did both when he was in school, and he still does work. He translates the New Testament in Greek, in an academic environment. Even in his retirement, as I understand it, still. So, what he's saying here, in regards to what I asked him about Revelation 21, 3, and 4, and so on, I wanted to share his opinion with you. And it's not a problem, I don't think. Overall, it's just didn't turn out to be this connection, this bridge into the understanding that I have of it. Didn't work out. That doesn't mean that it's right or it's wrong, or I'm right or I'm wrong. It's just a different opinion based on the language. And obviously there's someone else who he is also, he's a classicist more than in religion. He doesn't feel the exact same way, but that's fine. I've noticed when it comes to the Bible and religion and the New Testament, not everything is a slam dunk. It's 2,000 years ago. It's in a dead language. Culturally, it's on the other side of the world. 2,000 years ago, it's not something you can just walk into and say, oh yeah, I understand everything. Much like a lot of our religious leaders and religions and theologians, they just claim to have all the answers. And it's not that clean. It's really not. Even the best one, like the Bart Ehrman, his view of these last two chapters doesn't even make any sense, honestly. And he can't even defend that. And I've asked him about it over the years. And usually I see when we kind of get to these chapters, it's just like everyone's just ready to, it's like the end of class on a Friday, the last class. Everyone's just, they put in a hard week and they want to go home. They want to get out. And they just kind of miss it. And I also think that could be on purpose. But I wanted to share with you what this person was saying and what that means, and why I don't think that changes anything structurally. It's basically just, it may not be what it seems to be. That avenue is turned out to be a dead end. I don't even know, but I wanted to present that to you. So I'll go ahead and let's go to we'll go to Revelation 21, and I'll put it right here. We have the New Jerusalem. Behold, the tabernacle of God is among men, and he will dwell among them. So the main part here is the tabernacle is among men. God will dwell with them. and he'll be his people, and God himself will be among them. And he'll wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death, and these types of things. And when most people, I remember when I read it the first time, and how it is presented by most religions is, this is after the judgment. All the bad guys are gone. There's no one left. It's just the good people, God's chosen people, and he's going to wipe away, he's going to comfort them and all that kind of stuff. Well, that's not true, because men here is anthropos, plural, masculine. Now, if John just used the word men, just straight men, that would mean it would be for men, right? But they didn't use that. They used a masculine version of human, anthropos, human. So it comes out men here, and yeah, that's what they're saying because it's masculine. But we know from Christ's teachings, there's not a lot of them, and that's subjective too. But it would be hard, I mean, if you ask yourself, do you really think women are not going to be allowed into heaven or the kingdom of God, or the tabernacle of God will only be among males, only? I don't think that's a part of Jesus's teachings. I think that would contradict what's being said here. And I don't really have to go much further than that. Now, what's being said here is actually straight from God. I mean, we have voices right here. I heard a loud voice from the throne. Now, that could either be an assistant of God, or it could be God himself. It doesn't quite say here. It's just that it's a loud voice from the throne, the great white throne, right? From 20. So this is the highest of the high of authority that you can get. That's where it's coming from. Excuse me. So is this contradicting what Jesus said? I really don't think so. Even though it's saying men, because that's literally what it's saying, men. But it's anthropos. So how does this work? How did the Greek language come up with, and then you mix in Hebraisms and it's very confusing for people that are not like myself, that are not just following blindly some sort of religion or some sort of theological approach where they view everything through the view of somebody else. I don't care what the Pope or Ignatius or anyone else has to say about this. We have these letters. We know what they say. But what do they say? And this is a ground that's not covered very much. And then on top of it, it's covered incorrectly. And that's what this journey of mine through these parts of the New Testament are. I'm not knowledgeable enough to explain right off the bat what is happening here. There are people that can do it. It's going to take more time, if it ever happens at all. But what is happening here is anthropos, masculine, plural. But it doesn't exclude females. You see how that is? We know it doesn't exclude female. Jesus even says, like things like prostitutes and I think it was tax collectors and prostitutes will get into the kingdom of God before you, like in Luke. Now, okay, maybe he's talking about male prostitutes, if you want to go down that road and argue about it. But the point I'm trying to make is there are statements that are being made by Christ, quoted statements talking about people getting into the kingdom of God. It's not just male. It's not like the Gospel of Thomas where you have to, they say something probably based off of what's being said here, maybe, or somewhere else where only men can get into the kingdom of God, and you have to transform, from a woman to a man to be able to get into it. It's quite ridiculous. And that's why I think, it's a heretical text, and, because that's not what's being said here. But what do you call it? How do you term it? What is it? And that's just something that, quite honestly, is above my head. I just have not figured it out. Artificial intelligence is helpful, but is it really telling me what it is? And to be honest with you, it's not. It's not really capable of doing it for a couple of reasons. One, no one's written about it. And I'm not looking for their opinions either. With things like this and more desperation, I'm willing to explore some things. But there's really nothing written on it. This 3 and 4, it's a completely different view in a different way that relates to a religion or a view. So I have to go to these out. I don't pay these consultants anymore. I was, but this issue wasn't an issue back then. Now it is, but I don't think I'm ever going to go back to them. But I can still talk to them about some big stuff. So if I never figure it out, I can always talk to them and pay them a little bit more. I do have a list of things that some things go on, some things come off. If it's big enough, I'll talk to them about it. And then maybe you could figure it out then. But from now until then, what exactly that is called, how do you term it, what's happening, how does this work? It's not something that I can verify, but it exists. We know that women can get into these things. We know the tabernacle is among humanity. I've gone that far. Humanity, masculine. But it's just like when you name your affectionate, you name your truck. Oh, this is Roxy, or something, countries are always, feminine. And it's the same thing. What do you call that? I don't even know. It's just, but we know it exists. So we know also that in the same way as we move on, and he will dwell among them. And that is everybody. It's kind of like the Gospels. It's Jesus, the way he talks, it's basically like he goes to the town square, the center, and he takes, we'll just say the Gospels. Let's just say it's a book or whatever, a scroll, and he lays it down on the table. He says, there you go, everyone. There it is. I'm not shoving it down your throat. You can keep walking. You can take a look. You can believe. You can not believe. It's all up to you. But that's the general humanity on earth that he's referring to. Here. Just people in general. And we know that God is not going to comfort everybody. Hitler and all these other, if you hate Trump, it's, you can use him. If you hate Biden, you can use him. You can, whoever your enemy is, you can say, well, God is not going to comfort that person because he's a bad person. And I think that's obvious as well. But what do you call that? How do you term that? What is happening here as far as Hellenistic writing is concerned? How the style and how did it change from the Old Testament into the New Testament, and et cetera, et cetera. Because obviously this is very Hebraic. It's very historical into the Old Testament, right? I mean, they're not quoting a lot of stuff here, but it's all fulfillment. I'm fulfilling everything that I promised you Jews, the Old Covenant people, for hundreds of years now. And just because you're Jewish doesn't mean you're going to get into the kingdom of heaven. Oh, you're born, you can do whatever you want, you're good. It's kind of like these people, once saved, always saved, or something like that. It just doesn't work that way. There are rules and there are commandments and you have to follow them. So there's people that believe and are following them, and then there's everyone else. So I think it's more than safe to say, based off of what Jesus said, and this is what God's saying, but I think that they are very much in line with each other. God will dwell among them in this tabernacle form here. The skene, the dwelling place. And he will be among them, and they will wipe away their tears and death, mourning. We've been over that in the other video. But it's not just everyone in general. And if the world did get destroyed and was replaced, that's what most people think it is. It's some sort of relief. But you have to understand that in Jerusalem, they have this tree that it's for the healing of the people, of the nations, is what it says. But not here. Why? Because you're still on earth. And if you look down at verse 5, he's like, behold, I'm making all things new. It's a renewal. It's not, things weren't destroyed. And it's not a new world. It's a new heaven and earth. But it's a renewed heaven and earth. So life went on. This stuff went on, people didn't even notice. That's why it's been here. This thing's been in service for 2,000 years. No one even notices it. Even today, I scour the world. Does anyone else have these views? There's no one. Nobody. Not one. Not even close. Not one. And it's amazing that people look at this. I mean, the first thing you should think of is New Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Oh yeah, they're the same thing. Because everyone just wants to go home. They've read about the dragons and everything. I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe that's the whole point of it. But what's being said here is not for the general population of this earth. And a lot of people will say, well, we look around, we have wars, we have hunger, we have death, we have murders. How could this be happening? Because it's not for everybody. If you look at this and it says, oh, that's for everybody. And I would agree with you. But it's not. And that perspective may be happening here between God is among men and he will dwell among them. It may be something that they're doing Hellenistic writing-wise, combined with a Hebraism. It's not quite clear. That's the part that's not quite clear. But we know that not just anyone can be a part of this. They have to make their own decisions. So for the people that do make their decisions, that are humans on this planet, he will wipe away their tear. And he's making these claims. And this is something else that they do in Hellenistic. They build, I'll just say I forget the name already. But they build upon things. They introduce something and they're building upon it. And you'll see how things are connected, because here he says, making all things new, right for these worlds are faithful and true. Then he said to me, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. That is God. You see how he proclaimed it? And he who sits on the throne, God. But they don't say it. Behold, I am making all things. He said, right, John, these words are faithful and true. Then he said to me, it is done, it's completed, it's finished. That's it. I am the Alpha and the Omega. This is not Jesus, this is God speaking directly to John, directly to you in these writings. I am the beginning and the end. Okay? I will give to the one who thirsts from the spring of the water of life without cost. If this happened after the destruction, the world exploded and only the good people were left, who would still be thirsty at that point? Who would thirst? Are those people going to give, Jesus said there's no marriage, but some people say, well, we're still going to be living on the earth. We're still going to be having kids. We're still going to be doing all this stuff. So you can have kids that are evil, kids that still have to make, it's a weird speculative version of what's happening here. Because everyone has one, because you have to come up with these wild things. Well, maybe this, well, maybe that. But it doesn't say anything like that. What is it saying? I will give to the one who thirsts from the spring of water without cost. This is not happening in John's time, because if you look over here, 10, there it is. For the time is near, verse 11, let the one who does wrong still do wrong, and the one who is filthy still be filthy, and let the one who is righteous still practice righteousness, and the one who is holy keep himself holy. Behold, I am coming quickly. It is so close. It's happening. You're not going to have time to thirst for the water of life without cost. It's coming down. I mean, if you look in like verse 3, it talks about the new Jerusalem is actively in process coming down. That's why a lot of people think that the new Jerusalem is like building up, and they use these weird terms. Oh, it's building up and all that. That's not what it's saying. What it's saying in chapter 3, verse 12 is the new Jerusalem is on its way. All this stuff, it's happening right now. It's happening. It's not something that's building up. It's coming. We're coming. There's no time to change your heart, as they say, and repent. Maybe you could do it, but this whole process of thirsting and overcoming, it may be too late. So it doesn't make any sense that God would make this claim to be active during John's time, when in real time, when he's having this vision, which happens before these things take place. Because what he's seeing hasn't happened yet, right? And it's the same thing with everything else. But what he's saying here is, and linguistically, and I do have confirmation on this, is he who overcomes, and they use the male again, will inherit these things. I will be his God, and he will be my son. Will inherit these things. What things? All this. People want to say it's things for John's time. These are talking about John's, but the cowardly and the unbelieving, and they think this is referring to people that don't thirst before the judgment. But this is clearly after the judgment. This is after judgment events. The judgment's already happened. The earth's been renewed. There's a new Jerusalem. But life has continued on, and people has not even been aware that this is happening. This is the whole problem with religion, is they look at what is actually said, and they said, well, where is it? Where's this kingdom? Where's everything? We built up in our own heads what this is supposed to be. But what they build up in their own heads is not correct, because they're not paying attention. They're not listening. The Pharisees asked Jesus, when's the kingdom of God coming? Jesus says, you won't see it. It's not what you think. And that's why that verse 21 is so manipulated. Because people can get to see what is really being said. Because it also contradicts what people are expecting today. They're expecting all these wild, crazy things to be happening, but it's not true. That's not what's being said. What am I saying? This has all happened 2,000 years ago, and it's in place now. And it's still happening. Am I eloquent and properly trained enough to tell you every single aspect of what's happening here? No, and that's what I'm trying to be forthright with. But just because I don't know exactly doesn't mean I don't know what's happening here, because it clearly says it. I will give to the one who thirsts from the spring of the water of life without cost. He who overcomes will inherit these things. I will be his God, and he will be my son. That's an adoption process. What are you going to inherit? Salvation. He's dwelling among everyone. It's in the center square. Go over and say, I believe. And you start to pray, and you go to God, and you say, what am I supposed to do? Tell me. And then you start whining about all your problems. I got a problem with this. What does this mean? What does that mean? Why are my kids such pains? And you will have relief. He will take away the sting of this world. It's still going on. You're still in it. But you see what's being described here? And this is what people can't figure out. How can this happen with all the death that's going on? Are you a disciple of Christ? No. Well, there you go. Are you a Christian? Yeah, I've been a Christian for, 65 years. Have you ever asked God what this means? Have you ever, no, I just go to church and the preacher says something and I say amen and then, I read the Bible though. And it said exactly what my preacher said it was saying. Who's your, what church you go to? Oh, I'm a Mormon. I'm a Jehovah's Witness. I'm a Catholic. Well, you're listening to religion then. I read a book from so-and-so. He's a professor. Okay, you're reading a view of something. I can walk up to a stranger on the street and ask them their view. Doesn't make it right. We have these words. But I've said this before. The truth is crazier than what these people are saying is the truth. Nobody believes it. Nobody wants to believe it. They want to see a physical kingdom. And the anticipation of something is way better for a human than something that's already done and passed and settled. But you're never going to get comfort or relief from that. You won't find salvation in waiting for something. Everyone I talk to, it's going to happen any day now. Oh, it's going to happen anytime. Anytime. We know it is because for some reason we're special. For some reason, this generation, after 2,000 years, is the one. If I had some land to sell, I think I'd have a buyer. It's crystal clear what's being said here. It's being put in this sequence for a reason. It's not to go back to John's time and say, when this happens in the future, do this, and your reward will be this. No, this reward is here now. You can't see it, though. It's a do. You see this right here? I perceived with my eyes, that's harao, but it's a do. But if you look at 20, I saw, this is also harao, but it's a do. No, I didn't put a note on there. I saw that there was no temple in it. And then before, I think it's chapter, I won't get into it, but I don't know, chapter 14 of Revelation, there was a temple, but they were in heaven. They were in a heavenly, they weren't on earth anymore. The people that had their heads chopped off and they were given a white robe. They were in a temple. But now there is no temple. The Lord, the Almighty, and the Lamb are its temple. The city had no need for the sun. So what he's seeing here, and you notice that there's no description of anything. There's nothing defined here in the New Jerusalem because there's nothing to define. I look to my left, I look to my right. I'm doing it right now. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing angels around me. Yet it's happened. I'm interacting with it. I didn't even know about it. I had no idea that I was interacting with this thing. But as it happened, that is what is driving my view of this. And then I look at the language, and it all just falls into place all by itself. But I can't explain every single thing, every single detail. And it doesn't really even matter because it's clearly stated right here. And we know from other places like Jesus, that's outside of Revelation, but even inside Revelation, when he's talking to the churches, he's like, do whatever you want. That's fine. You'll still be saved. Right? No, of course not. That's not what Jesus is saying. Jesus is saying to some people, you're in big trouble and I'm going to kill you. because you're not doing, you're not doing the right thing. Just like in Acts, they lied. It's not even a big lie. It was really no one's business. But the husband and the wife were killed. They were struck dead because it's very fragile, and you can't have that type of stuff happening. So even little white lies is not a good thing. So there's definitely a distinct group among the entire group. Anthropos, men, as they're defining as men. But we know it's not just men, it's everybody. But that's just how they describe things. So let's go to what the gentleman said. I cannot see anything, and he's referring to Revelation 21:3 here. I cannot see anything imperative in the Greek. It says, with the mankind, and he will dwell with them. The article is often used, but not translated. Okay? That's the part, with he will dwell with them. You can read it. Not with part of mankind, nor with some of them. That's what he's saying. It's not. He's not defining a group inside that group in a linguistic way or in a cultural writing way, like an Hellenistic writing. Okay, Greek does not have a parative genitive. He's also saying that because it is genitive here with the men, but not usually with a preposition. So Greek does have a parative genitive, but not usually with a preposition. And that's it's a preposition here. With, I think, is the preposition. Some may wish to say what they think the real meaning is, but I can only translate the Greek as it stands. Regards, so-and-so. So, that's fine. When we have that here, this connection between the two to try to figure out what it's saying. He's saying it's just the whole human, the whole group, everybody. There's no definition of inside the group or anything like that. So that appears to be a dead end. There's people that disagree with him. There's where is it? And we've spoken about this before, and I've spoken about this with him before. But here, they're saying the parative specification in the phrase among men, metaton anthropon, right? Specification of humanity, the Greek uses the genitive plural anthropon following the preposition meta, with. While mankind is a broad category, the text specifies the redeemed portion of humanity as the specific group God dwells with. So it's not specific to that exact part is what the other gentleman's saying. But this is saying that it is. And you also see here it gives Facebook. This is just a generalization. I like to ask in general because I don't want it giving me specific. I don't want it to kiss my rear end. I want the answer. I want to know what's going on here. And you can see that it's giving me Facebook. It's giving me, some other resources that's drawing from. That's what AI does. But the AI I use, ChatGPT, for the most part, I program it not to do this. I specifically program it not to do this. But there's another artificial intelligence that I consult with. I can never remember the name. It's like Prerogative or something like that. But all three of them have given me the same answer. When I blindly ask them about what's happening here, they all kind of give me the same thing, the same general idea. They term it differently. A couple of them share the same term, this parative specification. I personally don't know. The gentleman who you read earlier, that response, he does know better. But just because that part right there is a dead end doesn't mean everything is a dead end. It's just like this among men thing. Again, we know it's not all just for men. It's for humanity. And among humanity, we know that not everyone just gets to be a part of this. I will give to the one who thirsts, because that's what has to happen. It has to come. The individual has to do it, right? I mean, I think we all know that. I don't know if anyone would actually disagree with that. And this is not happening in John's time when he's having this vision, before these events happen. The reward is this, but this is not on earth yet. But it will be very, 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 very soon, according to this. Can't give you a date. Like the preterists say, oh, it's 65 AD for sure. Other people say, oh, it's 96 AD for sure. You don't know that because it doesn't say that. That's, it's going to happen really, really soon. According to the New Jerusalem in Revelation 3:12, it's on its way. It's actively happening and coming to you at the moment you're reading this. Or at the moment, I would say at the moment that's being read, because that's the receiver is reading it. The person who's writing it, I don't see it happening at that point right there. But when they read it, it's almost like a type of prophecy. It's like when they open and read it, it's like, it's happening right now. It's been fulfilled in your time, kind of thing, like Luke is doing. So when you come down here, 5, 6, 7, clearly this is something that refers to the tabernacle and the people. It's redefining it here. So if it doesn't happen up here in verse 3 with what the gentleman's saying, it's not a loss. It's just, okay, that's not it. But it's definitely it down here. We'll inherit all these things. This is an adoption process. And it's happening after the judgment amongst a general garden variety group of individuals on the planet. Everybody. Everyone right now who lives on this planet is exposed to this. And they make the choice, yes or no. And this is what they interact with. And this is their reward, salvation, what I would call salvation. You're being relieved from the pain and horror of this world, but everyone else is still exposed to it, and that's why they can't see what's happening here. They can't even begin to understand what's happening here because they're just not asking. They just join a religion, this is what's correct, and happy days. And they don't think about it. And when something does come up, if someone were to watch this video, which you see it's not a lot, all they would do is just say, oh, that's not true, but they don't even know why. It's just like my point of view with 3, what's happening in verse 3. Men and he will dwell. I can't explain it right there. But I can show that it's being redefined somewhere else. And of course, they're going to say, oh, no, they're talking about people in John's time because it's happening before, right now, on earth. Still, because Jesus hasn't come back yet. But we know that's not accurate. We know that Jesus said he'd come back, and the Son of Man would come back in the 1st century. So this is active and happening. And this is not there's 2 other places that show that here. The kings of the earth, it's actually land, will bring their glory into it. Well, if the New Jerusalems come, that statement wouldn't make any sense. Because the kings of the city of Jerusalem would already be in it by the way they describe it. There's no Jerusalem hovering over the earth in their views. It comes down. Some people do say, oh, it's hovering above earth. And like Jehovah's Witnesses, they say 144,000 men are up in the city with God. But the rest of them are on earth, but it's a renewed earth but there's like a separation between the two. And people don't actually go into the city. Just 144,000, just the chosen of the Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, these types of explanations, they don't work. They don't work. And then you get down here where it says, is it 15? Outside are the dogs and the sorcerers, the immoral persons. And they always want to say, well, they're referring back to the time of John, presently. But this is clearly after. Blessed are those who wash their robes, so that they may have the right to the tree of life and may enter by the gates into the city. Outside are dogs. I mean, that's active right now. If they say, well, this is happening in 65 AD, before the destruction of Jerusalem, but this is already in place. Even if you say it's in future, it still doesn't make any sense. Because this has happened. How could you be outside are the dogs and sorcerers if it hasn't happened yet? And if it has happened yet, in the future, whenever it happens, there's still going to be dogs and sorcerers outside of it. That doesn't make any sense according to their views. Even Bart Ehrman could not explain this when I asked him directly. Even in his book, he doesn't. He says he does, but he never answered the question. His answer to me was like, haha, even if Revelation's real or it was really written or, some stupid answer. Because he just can't answer it. It's not something that can be answered. But what's really happening is we are on earth. The New Jerusalem is here. That you can't see it. And you interact with it, but you don't even know it. I didn't even know it. And the New Jerusalem is active. It's been activated for us. At this point, the Jews were able to leave their soul sleep, if you will, go through that judgment process, and advance towards this heavenly place where God is, Jerusalem. But even before a certain point, they weren't officially there. They were somewhere else, almost like an in-between. You can hear it being defined. There's still a temple. But then at some point, there is no temple. And everyone's asking God, when are you going to avenge us? When are you going to, don't worry about it. Calm down. It will happen, right? Because they were in a place, but they still weren't at the end, it appears. And the Jerusalem, not a new Jerusalem, but it always existed, is in place. And they were able to go from where they were into the city through the pearly gates. And the New Jerusalem is something that's new. It replaced the temple system. And this is what you interact with, like a consulate for a country, if you will. And when you die, you go, just like the Jews did, to Jerusalem. But they're both happening at the same time. Someone just died, and let's say they went to heaven, Jerusalem, to be with God. But this system, this New Jerusalem, you have to go through this to get to this Jerusalem. And see how they manipulate it? The New Jerusalem. But it doesn't say New Jerusalem. It says New Jerusalem over here. But this one's heaven and earth, the new heaven and earth. That's truer. But you see how they manipulate things? See how they twist things? And it's not even what it said. I wanted to be forthright with you and to tell you that this isn't saying what I think it's saying right immediately here. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Not everything's a slam dunk, but it is saying it here for sure. Not just men are among the tabernacle. And, you know, the Stalins and the Pol Pots and, you know, all the bad people are not having their tears wiped away by God. Because they're not in the system. Only the people who are, and John's word here is bondservants, slaves, doulos, are susceptible. And if you look at Revelation, again with John's use of the word anthropos, only anthropos exist on earth. They don't exist anywhere else. Nations, bondservants, these types of descriptions are on earth, but also in the heavenly realms. Everywhere else. So they can be in basically all three places where humans, anthropos, can only be on earth living when they lived in their own generation. Anthropos don't go to heaven. That's not how it's described by John with his word use. These are two different places, the New Jerusalem and Jerusalem. That right there should be enough to get someone to think, gee, why are they termed different? It's not Jerusalem renewed. No. It's the new. It's brand new. The New Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Revelation 21:10, it's not new. It's always existed. It's always been there. It's where God is. And before this time, no one went up there to be with him. But after the time of Christ, now, with the marriage, people can now enter Jerusalem, enter the city, and be face to face with God. Here, you are not face to face with God. You are dwelling with him in the dwelling place. If the two cities were the same, why would you need a dwelling place and be face to face with them at the same time? That wouldn't make any sense. There's a lot of contradictions, more than that, between the two. Okay, because the New Jerusalem is not the bride of Christ. It's adorned as a bride. But here, in 9, come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. He showed me, and this is a different show me. I actually saw it visually. It's I thought it was skene, or the other word. I think there's a more specific word, but they're actually seeing it with their eyes. Come, I will show you. Here it is. And it's a blah, 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 blah. That's a different topic. But he's actually seeing it. It's actually being defined. It has this. It's laid out in a square, blah, 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 right? But having the glory of God, they both came down. They're both holy city. They both came down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. But this doesn't have the glory of God. Came down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride adorned for her husband. So this is not being identified, the New Jerusalem, as the bride of Christ. Because it's not. It's something that exists on earth. It's actually beneath them. The system was put in place for us, to help us. But it's not our final destination. This brings relief. This starts the process. This is what you go through, what you have to go through, whether you know it or not, to get to Jerusalem. And this is how it's defined, and this is what's happening. You're being adopted. You are becoming, I'll use the word, again, son. Well, only men? Only son? Only, No, it is for everybody. I'm pretty sure about that. But I can't be absolutely sure because of the way it's written. And you have to be able to understand all that stuff. And then you have to argue with everyone and convince them that it's accurate as well. Good luck with that, right? But you will be adopted. And you will inherit. What will you inherit? This stuff. What will you inherit later? This stuff. But you're not there yet. You're still here. And you will have relief. Everyone else will not have relief. And then they'll say, well, it's not possible. Well, of course it's not possible. It's not for everybody, even though it says that it is. It's around you, but they don't see it. They don't want to. A lot of them don't want to see it. For them, it's nothing. Or it's Joseph Smith. Or it's the Pope. Or it's Martin Luther. Or name anybody. It's some religion that I've taken a liking to, or some theology, or some book, or this thought process. This way of thinking that I like. That's not it. This is what you interact with, the Bible, and it's complete. But no one does it, and I can't just read or learn from someone because they've been taught something else. They've been taught a system that they claim is based off of what the New Testament's saying. But it's not even close. So it's more difficult for me. But you're going to be doing research anyway. So maybe you'll teach me some stuff. Wouldn't be the first time. Just keep in mind the overall message that I'm saying here is, I don't know everything. I don't know exactly what's being said here in verse 3. On the surface, it looks like it's for everyone. But we know that it's not. Just from the teachings. If this is something new that's introduced, and it is among everyone, like a universalism, it creates a problem when it gets down here. The individual, the individual who thirsts, individual of this group who thirsts, will inherit these things here. And I will adopt them. And I will adopt them. And for everyone else, the cowardly, their part will be in the lake of fire that burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. And that proves that today, if you don't, you are going to go here. This is active. This is not prejudgment. This is this is right now. You're looking down the prefaces of your future. This is it right here. I'm not trying to scare you into becoming a believer, but that's the reality. That's what God himself, right here, the one who sits on the throne. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Jesus does not say those words. Only God does. Don't be fooled. So there it is. Whether I'm right or wrong about this doesn't really matter. But I still am going to explore if it is a thing, and maybe one day I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll never figure it out. It won't change things. The way things are now are the way things are. And the way things were before were the way things were. Just because I can't figure them out or you can't figure them out doesn't mean it didn't happen and it's not happening in a certain way now. But that's what this is, trying to define what is happening. In my experience, what I've gone through lines up pretty well with this. Exactly. This bears witness to what I have been going through. And I think a lot of people would say the same thing if they did. And I don't think a lot of people have. And if they have, they haven't really realized it. All right, folks, take care.